Okay, we are live. Hi. Jacob Sundstrom, managing editor of fearthefin.com with Marcus White, staff writer at fearthefin.com. We're here to talk about the kind of recent roster announcements, such as they are. I mean, we basically have our final opening night roster for the Sharks. I wouldn't necessarily categorize anything as a big surprise. I think we kind of expected something at least similar to this in that the following players were sent down in Kevin LeBanc, Mirko Mueller, Barclay Goodrow, Nikolai Goldobin, and then the two call-ups that, Ryan Carpenter and Dan Kelly, who weren't really in a battle for a spot anyway. I mean, is there anything here that stands out to you as either a surprise or anything like that?
I think, one of the options we didn't really expect coming in was the guys that were in danger of losing their roster spots, keeping their roster spots. Tommy Wingels moved to fourth line center, and it seems like he played well enough to keep his spot, and DeBoer seems satisfied with how Nieto and Carlson played. I know there was some speculation around them before the preseason started. I think that's probably the biggest surprise, that none of the young guys, I don't want to say seized the moment, because I'm not really sure what DeBoer's thinking on it was. I'll know later today after practice, but I'm a little surprised that we didn't start the year with at least one of them. The Michael Haley thing, I think he was going to be the extra forward to start the year regardless. And then, as you mentioned in the article, Timo Meier still on the roster, but he's still a couple weeks away from playing. And I think this is mainly just to have him around the team before he goes back down to the Barracuda, if anything. And maybe if the coaches can get a better look at him in practice. But yeah, no huge surprises. I do think, though, after all the talk about the young guys, it's a little bit of a surprise to not see any of them make the opening night roster.
Yeah, and to me, I think it comes back to the dead horse thing, right? It comes back to Tomas Hertl, third line center. That's because you've got, for me, what I was thinking is that, okay, fourth line is where the real position battles are. So if you have Chris Tierney as the fourth line center, that forces then, obviously Carlson and Nieto to the wings. Wingels is the odd man out. The fact that Tierney's been given the opportunity to play third line center opens up an opportunity for Wingels, who's a better face-off guy than either Nieto or Carlson, to have an option at that spot. It's definitely possible that Tommy Wingels has turned things around and he's going to be a better player this year than he's been for the past, year and change. But really, the past two seasons, he has not been good enough to be on this hockey team. And I would be really surprised if that's changed. I think the fact that he's a center or can play center, it's the reason that he's still here.
I agree.
Go ahead.
I think that's going to help him. I think, I wrote about it in our forwards preview. There's a surprising amount of versatility on the team, because now Wingels can play center, Hertl can play center as needed, Marleau can play center. So, I think this is by no means going to be their roster at the end of the season. Doug Wilson is always one to want to make changes. But yeah, I was a little surprised about Wingels, because like you said, the last, year and then year plus, the year before he did score 15 goals, 16 the year before that, but only 7 last year. They're gonna need him, though. They're gonna need him and Nieto and Carlson to all play well on that fourth line, and I think DeBoer is gonna give him a shot. And I think it's like the Tierney at third line center thing, like you said. That kind of moves the lineup around that way. But I also think that if needed, DeBoer will pull the plug on those combinations like pretty quickly. He said throughout training camp that he's really not married to any of his lines, and they have to kind of earn the right to stay together. The only line that seemingly earned the right to stay together from last year is Thornton, Pavelski, and Hertl, because they were so dominant. So I think, DeBoer will make changes as needed. I could see one of those young forwards come up for this road trip, especially if Meier's not healthy. They might just want to have the option. But, I think it's not the worst thing in the world that those guys aren't up either, because I think they're going to have a chance to play a lot of minutes for the Barracuda and be relied upon in important roles, and that could help their development, more so than shuttling in and out of the press box. I don't know if it's necessarily an indictment on their prospects, but it is still pretty surprising. As you said, Wingels was not great the last year and a half, and for him to make the opening night roster with that salary cap hit is surprising, to say the least.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is that it's not, we know what he is,
Yeah.
there's no upside coming there. It's not, there's no, I mean, it just doesn't work that way. I know we talk about this sometimes, and, when trades like are made where it's like, the change of scenery, that just doesn't really happen. You don't really, once you get to a certain point in your career, you don't really get better.
Right.
I mean, except in very, very rare cases.
Yeah. No, I mean, Wingles is at that point. He's, I think 25, 26. I'm not sure his age off the top of my head. He might be coming up on unrestricted free agency at the end of his deal. Yeah, I agree with the upside too. It would have been nice to see one of those young guys, but I think this is still a lineup where if everybody performs up to snuff, it's, there's going to be a good shot. And I was, surprised to learn in writing the forwards preview that Tierney, Marlowe, and Ward played really well together last year. Tierney's best possession numbers played with those two alongside him. It was only in 56 minutes, but that's a pretty promising sign for that line. If DeBoer is going to use them as kind of a sheltered scoring line, which I think he might, that line could work out. But they're sticking to their guns. They want to give Tierney a shot. They talked about Michael Haley's role still having importance in the NHL. So they're going to stick with it to start the year, but I can imagine seeing changes as soon as the first road trip.
Yeah, and that's what I think too. My assumption is that Haley is up for the Kings. He won't make the road. Well, see, he might make the road trip, but he'll sit in the press box. Meier will be sent to the Barracuda because they're not going to take him on the road trip. He's better off here getting worked on, with the staff and at Sharks Ice and whatever. They'll take a young guy, whether it be maybe Gaudreau would be my guess because, he's got some experience, whatever. But I would like to see LeBanc, but, whatever. To go on that road trip. That's kind of my guess. My other prediction is that this bottom six is not going to last very long. I think it's going to get shredded. And I think we're going to see pretty quickly that I would love to be wrong, by the way. That would be great. If these guys have really, especially a guy like Tierney, who I think really can still improve a lot. If he's really taken a step forward and can play, if he is good enough to play third line center, then that's incredible news for the Sharks, and I will not be upset about that, at all. But my guess is that's not going to be the case.
Yeah, he's they're putting him in the position to succeed. They want him to try. They're going to try him there. DeBoer said we're not going to be married to him as the third line center. They'd be more than happy to move him down the lineup. Who plays third line center in that instance? I think once Meier's healthy, I think we're going to get a better idea of what this team's going to look like, because I think once he's healthy, they're going to give him a chance in the top six. And, another consideration with Haley's contract is he is the cheapest salary cap hit of any of those young players we talked about, even though he's only $1,000 cheaper than Barclay Gaudreau. The daily cap savings of having him up, compared to some of those young guys like that'll help the Sharks at the trade deadline to potentially add salary if needed. And I think that's an underrated component as to why he's up. I don't think, though, I would be surprised if the Sharks play tomorrow and Joel Ward is still not healthy. I would be surprised if Haley drew into the lineup. I would have expected one of the young players to draw in then, especially Gaudreau, because his physicality, like he could probably keep up with the Kings, who are a big, heavy team, although they do have some speed now on their top line after Devin Setoguchi made the team, surprisingly. But yeah, I wouldn't be shocked if Haley actually played tomorrow night. I would be pretty surprised because, if Joel Ward's healthy, the 12 forwards they have that are healthy, and, excluding Meier because he has mono, like that's going to have a great chance to win against a pretty depleted Kings lineup. So I agree with you. I think Haley's going to spend a lot of the time in the press box, but he was good for the Barracuda last year. So I'm a little surprised that he's not with them to start the year, because he was good at that level. But I'm not the coaching decision.
Really, the only thing that concerns me about having Haley up is that I think though games like the games against the Kings are the games where he will play. Yeah, games against the Kings, games against the Ducks, games against the Blues and the Predators, teams that are big, heavy, physical, where you want to have a response, you want to have like that. And this is just speculation, obviously, on my part. But that's my concern is that it's like, oh well, he's only going to play against teams, big, heavy Western Conference teams. It's like, well, yes. So literally the best teams the Sharks will face. That's bad. I would prefer him play against the Oilers and the Flames, right? Or the Canucks or something. That's fine. I mean, whatever.
Yeah.
What's the difference? But that's really my only concern, other than being disappointed that we're not going to get more young guys in the lineup. But I have no problem with putting him in the press box. I mean, whatever.
I think that's totally valid too. I think if he is the deterrent they want in, I think then is when you should be disappointed with his inclusion on the roster, because there are the 12 guys who made the team. There are better options than him, even with his physicality, and like we've been saying, Gaudreau is a physical player, defensively responsible. He might not drop the gloves as readily as Michael Haley, but like he can play against those big physical teams. So, I still, though, I would be surprised if he plays tomorrow, but you make a good case as to why he might play tomorrow, because why else would he be up with the team unless he was going to play against Los Angeles? Regardless, though, I think because they're not playing, I mean, the Rangers just waived Tanner Glass. The Islanders don't have Matt Martin. A lot of their upcoming road trip opponents aren't going to have a guy like Michael Haley. And the Penguins just waived Sestito. So I don't think they're going to want Haley to play in that game after all the talk about speed and puck moving and skating ability in that series. I don't think they're going to play him there. So I think definitely during the road trip, but after the road trip, we're going to have a better idea of what they want this team to look like. But I think Meier, quote unquote, making it with the team is almost as much of a factor of the fact that he was sick and they just didn't get a look at him, and they want him around the guys and around the team. But I agree with you. I think he's going to get sent back down pretty quickly.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, really, and we talked about this the first time we talked, it's just the Meier being sick really threw a wrench into the whole everything. It did. It just, the whole training, we came in with, these narratives ready to go. And it was like, oh no, actually, no, none of that's going to happen now. Yeah. And so now we have no idea.
Yeah, no, and I think they wanted him to have every chance to make the team. And I think they still want him to have every chance to make the team because he's a former first round pick, a high end talent. But I think, if he's healthy, Chris Tierney probably doesn't get that long look at third line center. Hertl plays a little more center with him out, with Meier in the lineup, excuse me. So, it's going to be interesting to see what happens when he's fully recovered from his mono. And, it'll be interesting to see who they call up in the event they call somebody up for this first road trip.
Yeah, this road trip I think is going to be pretty interesting. I think it's also really cool to give, even without Meier, to give a lot of these guys some kind of an opportunity to see what's up. It'll be good. So 2 things to know. Tommy Wingels will be a UFA after this season. That's one guy that, if he's not coming back unless he takes a big pay cut, that's for sure. He's making
they're not paying
$1 million. Yeah, right. That's not happening again. And was there another thing to note? Anyway, that's just one of many guys. I think right after this season, the Sharks currently only have 5 forwards under contract for next season. So
I think as much as we wanted to see these guys make the team, I think the year that's set up to be their year to take charge is next season.
Correct.
And I think with that in mind, you're going to see guys I think it's going to be very similar to Logan Couture. When he stuck with the team, he was up and down his first year, but by the postseason, he was so invaluable to the team and so important to their success that they had to keep him up. And I think guys like Goldobin, Gaudreau, LeBanc even will get those opportunities, Meier as well. And if they stick, DeBoer is going to be happy to keep them up, and Doug Wilson will be happy to make a roster spot for them. But in training camp, at least, it seems like they didn't show enough to displace anybody in the lineup.
I think they're also, for a lot of these guys, going to want to give them an opportunity against, other pro players and other adults.
Yeah.
I think that's the big thing too. I mean, I know some of these guys are coming from, good junior teams and good junior leagues. Really, Meier came from the worst, from the best team in the worst league. I mean, the Q is a terrible, terrible garbage league. He was on the best team in that garbage league, but it's still a garbage league. So there you go. So it'll be kind of interesting. I think I honestly think going and seeing Barracuda games this year would give you a pretty good idea of what the where they're at, where their level's at, what their progression is looking like, whatever. So that's definitely something that we'll keep a closer eye on this year than we did last year, when really like there weren't really guys at that level. So
yeah, other than Goldobin, it was it was pretty
and
much,
Mueller, I guess, also
yeah.
technically.
But
So
other than those two, it was just really oh, Barclay Goodrow sent down and Ryan Carpenter leading the team in goals. But other than the hand, now it feels like their entire team. It's guys we have to pay attention to.
Right, exactly. Well, I'm looking forward to that as well. So Marcus will be at training camp today. We've got opening night tomorrow at SAP Center at the Tank at 7:30. That game will be on NBC Sports if you are not going to the game like me. I think that's it. We will do another one of these maybe soon. Good planning.
Yeah, I like it. Soon. We'll pencil that in.
Hold on, let me get my soon. Okay, I've got it. So we're good to go. All right, sounds good. Marcus, a pleasure as always. Thank you for watching, and we will talk to you guys soon.
Bye, guys.